This year, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers turns 30, and in celebration, they put out a new special called the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your thoughts on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always. My thoughts aren't the right thoughts. They're just my thoughts, and I would love to hear yours. Now, when it comes to something like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, in particular, a reunion special like this, I think your point of reference for the subject matter makes a gigantic difference. So Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came out in 1993, and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is designed for like 6 to 11 or 12-year-olds. That's kind of the target age range for the show, and I was 11 when the show debuted, and shortly afterwards turned 12. So I was at the very top end of the target age range for the show, and as best I can remember from 30 years ago when it debuted, I was like, ooh, what's this cool new show? I'm going to check it out. But I was embarrassed. I knew it wasn't good, but I also knew I wanted to watch it. And I felt that was what a lot of my friends experienced with Power Rangers. Of all of us are like, that show's so stupid. Who would want that? Oh, you have some of the toys? Oh, can I play with them? It was that stuff of just enough awareness of how childish it was, while at the same time really enjoying what it delivered at the same time. So for me, I watched the original run of Power Rangers through, I think, the original the first theatrical film. You know, I saw the Green Ranger saga, saw him transition to the White Ranger. I remember anticipating the movie when it came out. I probably saw it in the theater. I don't really remember. And then from there on out, I didn't really follow it after that because I was kind of aged out of the show. So I still have a certain amount of nostalgia for Power Rangers, and being someone that was old enough that I can really remember when it first came out. And I watched Superhuman Samurai, VR Troopers, all the knockoff shows or other shows from Saban. Like, I was of that era when it first came out, that original run. But I only know really the original run. I don't know anything that they've done since then besides the remake movie from, I guess, 5-6 years back now that I enjoyed. I thought that was a good way to revive the series. Unfortunately, it didn't do all that well, so we didn't get a sequel or anything like that. So that's a preference. Kind of going into this, I see the trailer for it. I have not watched Power Rangers besides like with my kids. Like, hey, kids, want to check this out? Besides that, or like ironically putting on the first movie or something like that. Besides irony and because of my kids, I haven't watched Power Rangers in over 25 years or whatever. But a nostalgia project comes out that reminds me that I'm getting older, reminds me that I'm 41 years old, and I had to check it out. I was curious enough while not having particularly high expectations. I was not expecting amazing cinema. The source material, the tone, the vibe of it, I think kind of restricts what you're able to do with it. And even from what they show in the trailer and some of the backstory of Kimberly and Tommy not returning to do it, you also kind of knew that this wasn't really even trying to be, like I said, anything spectacular. They're just trying to do something that's like, oh, my child, bringing my childhood back. How successful was all of this for me personally? Well, let's get started with our review. As for me, watching this, my big thought was some things are probably best left in the past. Inherently, this is something tough to revive in this fashion because Power Rangers, as previously stated, was designed for 6 to 11-year-olds 30 years ago. And there's a nature of what entertainment was like at the time, and it's targeting children. Jump forward 30 years, I have an 11-year-old. I have a 4-year-old. All of us that were the target age when it first came out, if you're on the low end, you're 36. If you're on the high end like me, you're 41. And if you want to make something faithful to what came before, you're designing something for 6 to 11-year-olds. 6 to 11-year-olds like different things than 41-year-olds. And so built into it, if you're being faithful, if you capture the energy, the vibe, the humor, the action, all that, the aesthetics of what you did before, it doesn't look great to a 41-year-old. Even if you go in it like, that's what I expected. But when you're seeing it, and it's a bunch of 50-year-olds that haven't done a whole lot outside of Power Rangers and Comic Cons because of Power Rangers, it kind of plays like that. It doesn't play great. So you're still got guys in spandex, people in spandex. You still have very kind of simplistic morality and kind of the way that they do things. A lot of action based, like action set piece based, more so than like big character arcs or anything like that. It's true to what came before, but what if you're making a nostalgia project for 41-year-olds? It's a nostalgia project for people my age. I just don't know that it translates, because I don't watch things like this anymore. I haven't watched things like this in over 25 years. That's the inherent issue with doing something like this. Does it hit certain nostalgia buttons for me? Yeah, it does. Like just kind of seeing them back together, those that decided to participate. There's something to that it's kind of nice. And hearing the music cues, and there's a certain side to it of there's a, we'll get into this just a second, plot line about one of the children of a Power Rangers that's now the age that the character was at the time the show aired. Her child is now that age. As just stated, my son was born when I was 30. Thus, now that this comes out, he's the age that I was when the show debuted. There's something to that. At the same time, he didn't want to watch this. So, hey, we're going to watch this. He's like, I'm going to go build my Lego sets. He didn't watch very much of it. I was watching it. My wife was like, oh, what are we really doing this? Like, yeah, I got this. That's how I make my living. But also, I'm curious about it. And it's unfortunate. I don't know what they could have done that I think would have worked for what Power Rangers actually is. If you're not trying to modernize it and remake, if you're trying to be faithful to what came before, this did that very well. But should you, is that just because they did it before doesn't make it great? No, there was always, like I said, when I first watched this 30 years ago, I loved it, but at the same time I was like, I know this isn't very good. I know that this is pretty goofy and corny. In which case, 30 years later, to a 41-year-old, it's a lot goofier and a lot cornier. And it plays very different when you have a 50-year-old versus a 20-year-old in the lead, or multiple 50-year-olds versus multiple 20-year-olds in the lead in itself. Don't know how that works. Other thing you have to talk about with it is one of the main plot lines is that they're trying to kind of honor the legacy of Trini, the Yellow Ranger, who the actress that played her died in a car accident over 20 years ago. And is kind of one of those ones, because anytime that you have an actor that feels so tied to a generation's childhood, that people grew up watching this person during their formative years, even if they're only in that one thing, only in it for like one season, there's something there that the fact that that person would die so young, you really remember it. I don't even really remember her name, but I remember that Trini, the Yellow Ranger, died in a car accident a few years after she was off the show, and it was just kind of those things. Oh wow, that you just realize your own mortality. So they built that into the show, the plot of this, that what's kind of going on. They're trying to reference some of that, and they want to like honor the actress and the legacy there, and in doing so, I think some of it worked and some of it felt manipulative and poor taste. I don't know what the balance is there. where you're in a bit of a tough situation when you make something that's trying to be like reunion when someone isn't with us anymore. That's tough. And in particular, some of the stuff they do early on really felt like, that doesn't necessarily feel to be in the best of taste. And I think it got better as it went along in a sense of it's trying to honor a legacy and continue it. But at first, it was harsh with some of the stuff they did. I would not have recommended it play out the way that it actually did play out. Other thing to talk about in here is that not everyone agreed to return. Famously, the two most popular Power Rangers, Tommy, Kimberly, did not return. And it's especially that since they filmed this, Frank's Tommy died. It adds an extra weight there that we didn't get to see him one more time in the role that he's by far most famous for. You're watching it very much reminded that he's not there, and reminded that he's no longer with us. Once again, someone that such a big part of your childhood no longer there. And so when you do it and you're doing something like this, it's really unfortunate when you can't get everyone to come back. In particular, when you can't get by far, the two most popular of that era that, when they did the remake movie, there's two of them that make an appearance, and it's those two. And they're the two that didn't come back. Others didn't come back. But those are the two that very publicly people are like, oh, are they coming back? Oh, they're not coming back. That's disappointing. And, Kimberly went on Twitter to kind of discuss it. And, I think she was trying to say that she's trying to like diplomatically describe why she turned it down and didn't want to do it, while at the same time trying to not burn bridges and throw people under the bus. Just please stop speculating as to why a 50-year-old didn't want to go and do this thing that is the follow-up to the show I did when I was 20. Like, I don't want to throw them under the bus, but I've had a career since then. I don't want to go back to it. So that's what I heard her saying in it. Is like, it's not necessarily that they weren't going to pay me enough, but considering I have other things, going back to that doesn't help her the way that it probably helps most of these other people. They make their money at Comic Cons. Back in January, I saw the actor that plays the Black Ranger at a table at a Comic Con. That's how I'm pretty sure that's how he makes his living, whereas she's gone on and been in many other shows, movies, and things like that. She's had more of kind of a career since then. And so she's not coming back. And so the way they handle that, the character's still there. They still have them in those roles, but they don't take the helmet off. It's just a stunt double in there. And they'll even like reuse audio from before to like give them lines. Once again, highlighting the fact that they're not there, drawing attention to their absence, rather than kind of writing around it. Like they find a way to write around the fact that they're not there. So it plot-wise, you can track with it, but it's also, you're watching their shenanigans. But to be fair, writing around what they have access to, that's what this show always was, since half the show was them taking footage from Japanese shows and converting it into an American show by shooting the stuff with these teenagers at a local gym cafe place. Like that's what the show's always. It's always kind of worked around. And we got this, so let's right around that. So in a sense, I guess it's fitting to include characters that definitely did not participate in the show that they were making. So, as like just a nostalgia experience, put a little bit of smile on my face. Is it actually good? Does it elevate the Power Rangers material? Does it find something there that wasn't really there before? Not really. And it kind of tries to by having a pretty dramatic storyline in there, passing of the torch, that has more dramatic weight and sadness to it, remorse, than you typically get from Power Rangers. But you take this really heavy story and put it in the same aesthetics of people in spandex, corny jokes, goofy villains. You know, it doesn't play great. So I did not think that this was. I'm not sure exactly what you would need to do to make a great Power Rangers reunion special that's set in the same continuity, trying to be faithful, but also making it for. I think that inherent contradiction. The show was designed for 6 to 11-year-olds 30 years ago. It's a nostalgia product, so it's designed to pull on the nostalgia of those people who are now 36 to 41. Thus, they do not watch this type of content anymore. And when you watch it at this age, you just see the flaws. If you can watch it and just turn your brain off and have nostalgia fun, it's pretty neat to see a bunch of your Rangers there again. Other than that, it is what it is. It's kind of like 3 episodes of the Power Rangers squished together. Same quality of writing, same quality of acting. It's just more obvious the flaws because our lead actors are 50 and not just teenagers with attitude. That's my take on it. I have no idea. I haven't gotten a great vibe for where the general public is. In front of me, this is telling me Rotten Tomatoes currently has it as an 83%. Generous. That is very generous. I've seen some people saying it was a great nostalgia trip, and even looking at some headlines that are here in front of me. This is millennial nostalgia done right. Is it, though? Is it just nostalgia, or is it done right? Let me know what you guys thought. I'm curious. I'm very curious how this will play for people that maybe have a little bit more nostalgia, or I didn't grow up with Power Rangers. I watched it when it first debuted. So if you were 6 when it came out, you actually kind of grew up with it. You watched it over years during multiple formative years. I watched it for like a year. I watched like the first season or something like that. I wonder if it plays differently if you're just a few years younger than me, had more time with it. Even my wife, she was not into this at all. Very, like the whole time she's going, this is awful, this is awful, this is awful. She wasn't the one asking to watch it either. But her and her brother, she's 2 years younger than me. Her brother's 5 years younger than me. In which case, 5 years younger than me. He was 6 when it came out. And he grew up very much so with the Power Rangers on a greater degree than I did. Maybe it plays differently. Let me know your thoughts down below. Keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.